budget review today is just a budget framework that we worked out with Tim Erickson, our Director of Finance, and I think it makes a lot of sense. It was a good conversation. We just talked through what would some of the potential things that could come up in the course of business, what might they be, and how might we assign some numbers to them. So does everyone have the document with them? Does everyone have it available, rather?
It's in the meeting invite, so that might be the easiest way to access it. It's also on the agenda too.
Sure. So it looks like some of you are getting logged in there. Actually, and what I can do, I can share my screen too. So if you don't have easy access to it, I'm going to share my screen now. Let me know, do you see the budget now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the different categories that we broke it down into: marketing expenses, supplies, technology, textbooks, mileage, and then Wisconsin Virtual School. You can see where there is no estimated number of students. Those would be fixed amounts that would be part of the budget regardless of the number of students. The rest are estimates based on the number of students we'd have. So the budget is real. The numbers really exist. The dollars have been allocated, but they're based on an assumption that we don't know. So every year we can adjust that budget based on the track record that we have and how the numbers seem to be tracking for us. So marketing, we just set it at 2,000. These numbers really are relatively arbitrary because we're not sure what we'll need. You know, of course, a budget is a plan more than it is a fixed number of dollars. We want to try our best, obviously, to hit the target. And then supplies would be the next one. You'll see the estimated number of students is 10. Of course, that is only, we're basing the budget only on open enrolled students into the district. So the amount of money that we will talk about is actually significantly greater than this, but the dollar amounts that the board would officially be responsible for would be based on the number of virtual open enrolled students into the virtual charter school. So as an example, you'll see technology, estimated 10 students at $300 a piece. That would cover the Chromebook expense, essentially. That's the main purpose of those dollars. There will be a lot of other students that will be accessing the Hudson Virtual Learning Academy that will have their district issued Chromebook, but that's a little bit different in that that would be coming out of the IT budget, not the segregated budget for the virtual charter school. And then we have textbooks. That's to cover occasionally when they take a Wisconsin virtual course or another course that we're offering to match something in our regular course catalog, there's a need for additional textbooks. That's what that is for. We've run into that a couple times, well, several times actually this year for our students. And the next one is mileage and meals. That would be if, as a board, if you're going to go to say a conference or a regional meeting to learn about virtual charter schools, that's to cover the expenses related to that sort of travel. And then finally, there's the Wisconsin Virtual School. That's the per student, per course fee that we pay for Wisconsin virtual courses for a net amount of $46,000, $46,230. So that's our proposed operating budget. What questions do you have? I'll stop sharing now if that's okay. It'll be easy for me to see what questions you have.
So with the Chromebooks, are they going to be mailed, shipped to the students and then come back at the end of the year like it happens with students in the district?
Yeah, so they would be part of the same leased Chromebook program that we have. So we've increased our lease. And in terms of potentially, if they live some distance away, then perhaps we'd be shipping them. If they're in a region of a neighboring district, perhaps we'd be delivering them. We could also offer pickup, but it is our responsibility to provide that technology.
And what do you envision that marketing budget for? I mean, is it pamphlets, education fair, brochures? Just generally speaking, is there sort of already some ideas and that number is based around some of those early concepts?
Really, there aren't. We view this as one of the things that we thought the board might really want to dig into. How do we market what we have to offer? Basic materials will cover from the district budget, the basic handbook material, that sort of thing, because a lot of that would be pertinent both to the virtual charter school and just the Hudson Virtual Learning Academy. So we would cover those. We really would view this as those things that you see as a board would help us get the message out. And this is one that the marketing budget was a guess. That amount was a guess. As we move forward, if we find, or you find as a board, that if we spend money in with a certain marketing strategy that we think works to invite students in to consider the virtual charter school, we're definitely open to those ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I would see that potentially being a topic for discussion in a subsequent agenda.
Okay. And is the vision still focusing on, at least initially, keeping Hudson kids in Hudson versus really going outside the district in hopes of meeting the needs of kids in other areas?
Yes.
Because I know that's initially the conversation. Now we have COVID. Now we don't know what's going on in the school year.
Yeah, and nothing has changed with our vision. It's what we want to make sure. We are definitely open to the idea and like the idea of having students from other districts find the Hudson Virtual Charter School is the best fit for them or for their child. But the first priority will always be to our resident students. So the way I would view that is our advice would be never to go down a road for the virtual charter school that could potentially lessen the quality of service for resident students. But often it's the opposite. Those dollars that can come in through open enrollment could allow us to expand programming, to offer more of our own courses, to personalize our overall program more. So view that more as an opportunity for some synergy to really enhance what we can offer. But yes, and that's why that budget is based on 10 students. We're not looking at trying to get hundreds and hundreds of students.
So the 10 students is not necessarily open enroll. Those are inside of the school district today.
No, but those would be open enrolled because there are a lot of students, hundreds really, that are already part of the Virtual Learning Academy. But the budget that the charter school board, that the governing board that you would have control over, is based only on the open enrolled in, even though our conversations and our scope and our vision is really for all kids. The legal authority is limited to those open enrolled in students.
Okay.
One other question. We've also talked about how existing staff have their own class lessons and curriculum, and it might be converted into material for the virtual charter school. Therefore, we would be buying less content from other vendors down the road. So at this point, that's a number that at least might change per student, per pupil as time goes on.
Yes. And maybe Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about what we've done with Fayette over the summer and how that'll translate into the fall?
Yeah, so for second semester, we actually added one Hudson High School teacher who taught a section of 25 of our Wisconsin Virtual School Fitness Fundamentals 1 students. And so instead of having to pay $290, I think that course per student would cost us, I want to say $150. Does that sound right? Mm-hmm. It's about half. So it saves us some money, but the added bonus to that has been we have more local control, so we can have that collaboration piece more readily. So a lot of those students who took the PE course were seniors who needed the credit to graduate. So we were able to collaborate as counselor, myself, and the PE teacher to make sure that they passed and got the credit. when we have a WVS instructor, you know, a little bit of that control and collaboration is harder to make happen. They are great, and I love a lot of the WVS teachers, but the more Hudson teachers we can invite into this plan, I think will benefit us. Then Craig Gillick was the teacher that was doing this for us second semester, and he took on then the role and responsibility of building out a summer school PE course for us, based on his knowledge now that he has of being an online PE teacher, and some of the skills that he built up over the last 5 months. So he was really able to fast track that because of his experience. And then the summer school courses that we've been able to fast track and develop because of COVID, we are going to be able to use those and kind of revamp them for use during the school year. So I think for WVS Fitness, we probably had about 100 enrollments last year. And so that was our biggest section of kids in any single course. And so that would be a big money saver for us too, if we aren't paying as much for that class. So one example, but kind of an exciting road that we've taken. So
is the $3,600 per student there, assuming a full-time, full load course for both semesters?
yeah, 6 courses per semester through WVS, and like the original credit classes. So credit recovery classes are a little bit less money for us. And then if we use any Hudson instructors, those are a little bit less cost as well. So Dave, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, talking while muted, that doesn't work. Our total bill for WVS this year was well over $100,000 with all of the students that we had. So there's this unique relationship where the more courses we can move to our own teachers, it does 2 things. One, it saves the money so we don't have to pay individual WVS courses. We'll never get to a point where we won't utilize WVS because they've got individual sort of one-off courses that we likely would never be able to offer. We're just not that big of a system, but a lot of the core classes will be able to. So not only it saves the money, and that's nice, but more importantly, it gets our teachers in front of our students. It really works out well, and it protects their full-time equivalency too. If we end up having a lot of kids shift to virtual, we don't want to get into a situation where we can't keep our teachers full-time because of that. So having them take on the virtual responsibility has that added benefit as well. Other questions about the budget?
What's in the supplies? What's the assumption there?
That's a good question. I'm trying. Do you remember, Sarah, what we talked about?
Separate.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of what other supplies we would have per person if you've got the Chromebook covered and the textbooks covered.
And I'm not sure if this is what we were talking about, but it's funny that we have such a specific amount of 223. I'm not totally certain, but one example.
Seems like there's a calculation there.
It really does, doesn't it? And there probably was, and I don't totally remember honestly. But one of the examples of supplies that would come into play, well, there's 2. One would be the curricular supplies. There's certain lab classes that we might need to purchase additional supplies for a specific class, but it could also cover supplies for just the day-to-day office operation of the virtual school.
Would that number have come from the per pupil allotment for a high school student?
That's what it is.
Okay.
There it is. Thank you. Yep. So that's the exact, yeah. So as Sarah said, that's the exact number of the amount per high school student that's allocated to the high school supply budget, which is the big budget that they get per pupil. Thank you, Sarah.
It was Melissa that was like, that's a very specific amount.
Yeah.
Around numbers. See,
right.
I've been looking at this kind of stuff all day. So when I see a specific number, I know there's something else
Make believe numbers and real numbers. Yes.
Yeah.
And it seems reasonable, right? What is the appetite by the district of this flexing up and down? Because there's so many unknowns, right? This is kind of a baseline year. We really have no idea.
Yeah, really, that would be fine, because for the most part, well, let's say we end up with more than 10 students. The dollars that follow that student would cover, more than cover, quite honestly, the allocation that would go to that budget, because there's other things that would get paid for, like Sarah's salary. Now, it's not a direct, we don't put those dollars in a separate budget and say, okay, these students pay for Sarah's salary. But as an example, there's more dollars that come in per student than would be reflected in that budget. So we would be just fine, because there are students. So we're going to cover those basic expenses that we would have, that we would for any of our students. We would be just fine. And if the numbers come in lower, that's fine too. Those dollars, they don't roll over to next year's budget, but they're essentially absorbed into the budget for the following year, and then could be reallocated.
So the relationship between the regular Hudson School District and the charter school here, our realm of responsibility really is only the expenses specific to that student, not support salaries or any of the admin or any of that. That's
Exactly
covered by the regular district budget.
Exactly. And that's that concept of instrumentality that we talked about. That's one of those things. I mean, I remember when we first started looking at that, we read that over and over and over again. Okay, let's make sure we understand what this means. But as an instrumentality of the district hires and supports and maintains all of the employees.
Okay.
There would be no related expense that way, which is nice from a board standpoint, because a lot of the things, when like last couple weeks ago when Andrea presented on open meeting, so many of those things that you go into open meetings for are staff related. We won't have to deal with that, which is nice, because I mean, it's tough to volunteer for a board and have to deal with something that could potentially be heavy like that.
I think the only thing that will be interesting as we go through the next few months is talking about the marketing side, and do we even know how much something would even cost, right? Like how far does $2,000 get you? And what do we want to do? It's hard to put a number. I can't say, do you want more or less? We haven't even talked about it yet. So that's an interesting thought that could flex, but the rest seems, it's all gonna be dependent on enrollments.
I think Tracy Habish-Aline would be a good one to connect with if you're looking for more information on the marketing side. And
Yeah, it might even make sense, Aaron, to that point, to invite Tracy in so she can get to know everyone and you can get to know her.
Yep.
She's our communication leader in the district and does a great job with that. All right, so if there are no other questions, then I think that the plan would be to bring the budget forward for approval at the annual meeting.
Yes.
Great, excellent.
Do we need a motion for that, Dave, to move that to the annual meeting, or that's automatic?
Yep, that would just be automatic through your discussion with Sarah when you're creating the agenda for the annual meeting.
Yep.
So I don't think anything will require motions today other than a motion to adjourn at the end.
Okay. Sarah, did we have one other, and I apologize, I did not bring the agenda up on my screen here before we started. Did we have a second item on the agenda about meeting dates?
Less about dates. I mean, obviously a reminder that our annual meeting is July 16th, so that'll be exciting. But I wanted to get an update from Aaron and Dave on where maybe the district and the school board is at with meetings, and will we consider meeting in person, or will we keep our meetings virtual? Combination. And so I just kind of wanted to have a little bit of discussion about that leading up to the annual meeting.
Aaron, do you want to take that one?
sure, we talked about that just last night when we had the board meeting. The board was interested in exploring kind of a hybrid model where if some people still preferred to join via Zoom, they could, and if some people wanted to be on site, that was the discussion we really had.
Well, I like the hybrid model approach because it's still, particularly throughout the summer months here, it allows for people to be away and, you know, still be able to come in via Zoom or what have you, you know, and attend just, you know, the meeting hour or what have you. So I like the hybrid model. I think with a group our size, it would be pretty easy to find a space where we could distance and still, you know, the majority of us could be there if we chose to. So I would be open to moving Sarah towards that hybrid model. You know, unless we see some sort of crazy spike in COVID here in St. Croix County, but
So one of the nice features of that hybrid model, if you choose to go in that direction, is that people could then participate in person. And again, we could space out chairs for, as we did in one of our meetings, space out chairs. So if community members want to come and observe the meeting, they can do that. We wouldn't necessarily then even have to live stream if they have that available. We could continue to do that. That's a nice way to be transparent as well.
Right.
So I think if we would do that, we would just want to make sure that we would have at least a board member and then a staff member on site to be able to commit to that, to manage guests and community members if they come in, to make sure they have what they need.
mm-hmm. Good point.
What about like location, in terms of location? Are we, as a charter school, do we have a location that we need to be at, or are we free to go to any building in the district, or how does that work? Because I know obviously we were using the reading room at the high school, but that was before we became official.
Right.
So I don't know if we need to be at ASC or anywhere in particular.
No, not necessarily. I think probably Stan's point is the only one that we'd want to make sure we keep in mind, is that it's a big enough space that we can spread out and offer room to community members. So a few places that we've done board meetings with the regular school board would be ASC is one. Rivercrest in the multi-purpose room, that's a really nice space for that sort of work. Really, any of the media centers would be fine. Honestly, the easiest space, well, I guess the two easiest spaces would be either Rivercrest or ASC, just because it's easy to move chairs and tables into those spaces, and it's well equipped for those meetings. There's a screen that we can have the agenda or any presentations up. So, but yeah, there's no legal reason it needs to be one place or the other. My only advice is that we might try a few different places to get the right fit, but once we have that we would, as much as possible, commit to that space, just so it's easier for people to remember and easy for the community to have access if they choose.
Yeah.
We don't want to play hide and seek on the community.
I think the one thing to consider if we're going to go hybrid is making sure that it's still a good experience for those that are online, because that, you know, I've been on a lot of calls where you've got a big group that's together and you're one or two online, and it doesn't always work. So it might still make sense that everybody's on their own individual computer so you can still see the group. Because or else I think it works when everybody's in person or everybody's online, but that hybrid model can get messy from an engagement standpoint.
Yep.
Yes, we've experienced that as well.
Yeah, I think we all have. Yes.
Yeah.
We just need a larger raise your hand button.
And a mute reminder. Yeah. ASC, you mean Administrative Service Center?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if that's easier going forward, because, you know, Rivercrest eventually is going to have students in, and we don't know what the schedule's like, and the cleaning, the sanitation, and all of that. That was just my only thought. It doesn't matter to me personally, but if Rivercrest staff would find it easier if we were meeting elsewhere.
Well, so maybe we should talk then specifically about the location for the upcoming annual meeting. and then we can decide. So if the direction is that we want to try a hybrid, but as Melissa suggested, that everyone still have their device still on the Zoom, so outside participants are equally engaged. And if you want to try that at ASC, we can sign that up and make sure that we have everything ready for it. That would be just fine.
I would think that would be a good idea.
Excellent.
So long as the space is available.
Yeah, it should be available. What's the date again? I'll check, make sure there's nothing goofy there.
Thursday, July 14th.
14th.
July 16th.
16th, sorry.
16th.
Yeah.
Using my memory instead of my calendar.
So actually, I'm going to ask Ryan to do a favor because Ryan is the organizer. So Ryan, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here, sorry.
Okay. So Ryan, would you be able to go into the invitation for the meeting on the 16th and see if you can sign out the meeting room at ASC? Because it'll only show up, we can check the availability and sign it out right now if it's available.
Yeah, let me check really quick. Is it ASC 1?
ASC meeting room 1. Yeah, not conference room, meeting room.
It looks like it's available. It let me do it. So
Okay, great. So we're booked.
Very good.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
Okay, so that was ultra efficient because it is not even 6. So Stan, if you want to see if you can get a motion to adjourn, we could beat the record and be done in, oh, it's a half an hour. We started at 5:30.
Under half an hour, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
There we go. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's a record. I would like to plan though for perhaps our next working meeting is to schedule, see if we can schedule to have Tracy come in and talk to us about marketing here a bit. And I mean, as Dave said, for her to get to know us get to know her. I would really like to get this marketing concept sort of up at the top of the agenda here and start talking about what we think are the best ways to burden Sarah.
we and Aaron and I are right in the same building as Tracy, so we can chat with her and get that scheduled.
Cool. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
And even with that little
you.
extra conversation, we're still under a half hour. Yes.
Yep. Well
right.
done, Mr.
Have
President.
a great evening, everyone.
You too.
All right. Take care. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.